Chapter 1530. Great Messenger. Arnold stood out from the crowd and cupped his fists. The Fox King is seriously injured and unconscious. It is not convenient for him to meet any guests. Great Messenger, please forgive us and don't make things difficult for us. Seriously injured. Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes. She didn't think the third-level Oratin could injure Cole so badly. Arnold nodded. Yes, the Great Messenger's friend, Wabi, attacked the Fox King. Little shit. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a second before she smiled. Little shit said he didn't care about her, but his body was still very honest. Without a doubt, little shit must have conveniently attacked Cole when he was saving Oratin. Even if Oratin wasn't Gu Mengmeng's male, he was still her family's tiger. He wouldn't let an outsider like Cole bully him. Little shit was standing up for her. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said to Arnold, "All right, I understand. Since it is not convenient for the Fox King, we shall not disturb you any further." With that, Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and left. Sighs of relief could be heard behind them. It was obvious that they had been frightened out of their wits. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng with a smile. Am I right? If it was just whales and not little shit, would he care about this? He wouldn't. Gu Mengmeng smiled brightly. She shot Leah a look. To celebrate little shit's safe return, let's have an extra dish tonight. While we're at it, heh heh heh. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng's mischievous smile and knew what she was thinking. The grapes sent by Canwa this year were made into wine by Sandy and her men. I checked them after I came back. They weren't as detailed as yours, but the taste was about the same. Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's little nose. But you have experienced Wabi's alcohol tolerance. Aren't you afraid he will drink all your wine again? Gu Mengmeng raised her head. As long as I can drink little shit back, what's a few barrels of wine? Gu Mengmeng was in a great mood. She hummed a tune all the way back to the stone castle. Wabi had never been one to scheme. If someone provoked him, he would usually choose to fight back. It was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge 10 years later, but that did not apply to him. Looking at Oratin being beaten up so badly, he would either not care or even care. Cole would definitely be 10 times more miserable than Oratin. It's a pity that I didn't see him like this. Gu Mengmeng was stunned when she pushed open the door and entered the stone castle. Little shit, this was definitely kissing little shit. My wine. Gu Mengmeng shouted at the top of her lungs, didn't you say to rest on the second floor? Why did you drink all my wine as soon as you came back? That's right, Gu Mengmeng had intended to take out the grape wine to serve little shit. But serving was one thing, and it was another to find a drunken snake coiled up in the stone castle like Nuwa with a wine barrel in its tail. It was half leaning on the stone castle while winking at Gu Mengmeng with a drunken and enchanting smile. Burp, little shit seemed to be in a good mood after drinking. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng had returned, he walked towards Gu Mengmeng in an S shape. He pushed Elvis away and hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms. He whispered into Gu Mengmeng's ear, I am your father, really. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. How could he act in a sequel after drinking himself into a coma? Chapter 1531. You don't believe me. Wales seemed unhappy. He raised his upper body and lifted Gu Mengmeng by the collar, lifting her feet off the ground, as if he was grabbing a little chick. He shook her for a while and watched Gu Mengmeng swinging around his hand like a pendulum. He chuckled and said mysteriously, Look, you have Snake's mark on the back of your neck, right? I heard he's dating you over there. According to that fellow's character, you won't be able to run away and you'll definitely have to marry him. I'm his father, am I also your father? Gu Mengmeng followed Whale's words and thought, it seemed to be the case. Looking at the development of Snake and Gu Mengmeng in the dream world, there was probably no other possibility for her. But, how should she put it? Although they had the same face, the same name and even the same past experiences and memories. The Gu Meng Meng in that space was not herself. So Gu Meng Meng still felt that she could not recognize this father. Sometimes, I really feel that your little mouth, haha, tell me, is it because your mouth is straight or is it because of fate? You wanted me to lie to Cole and say that the reason I'm not afraid of you anymore is because I mated with Wang Xiaoxin. Ha ha ha, didn't I mate with her? If not, where did Snake come from? But, I can't find her. With that, little shit let go of his hand and Gu Meng Meng fell vertically. Elvis quickly caught hold of Gu Meng Meng. He frowned and looked at Wales unhappily. Gu Meng Meng patted Elvis's shoulder and shook her head, saying, he has been holding it in for thousands of years, it's good to let him get drunk and vent his frustrations. Elvis did not say anything and just quietly placed Gu Meng Meng on the ground. Then, he sighed and quietly stood a step away from Gu Meng Meng, so that he could protect her when Wales went crazy again. Leah hugged Elvis's shoulder and said, put yourself in my shoes. If Gu Meng Meng insists on leaving through the doors of time and space tomorrow, would you stop her? Stop me. Elvis gritted his teeth. Leah, what if you can't stop her? Elvis frowned and said, follow. Lee's smile widened and he asked again, what if she doesn't? Elvis's brows furrowed into a dead knot, but his voice turned cold as he said calmly, die. Leah nodded in agreement. Both of us have the same thoughts. Wales was the same back then. But you know what happened in the end. That woman tore off the scales protecting his heart and dug out his heart. Elvis felt a tug in his heart as he felt a strange sense of empathy. He loved Gu Meng Meng and was willing to die for her. He was not afraid of death, but if the reason she wanted him to die was to leave, the so-called heart-wrenching and bone-biting was nothing more than this. Looking at Wales' wavering drunken state, Elvis suddenly felt a sense of empathy. He turned to look at Leah and smiled. We are different from him. Xiao Meng is still soft-hearted. Leah nodded in agreement. That's right. Our luck lies in the fact that Meng Meng's world doesn't have any worries that Meng Meng can't let go of, and that Meng Meng can't bear to see us. Therefore, although he is powerful, he is just a pitiful person. Chapter 1532. Leah was taken aback and instinctively looked at Gu Meng Meng. Standing behind Wales, Gu Meng Meng also tilted her head and pointed at her own nose, saying, I told him. Wales turned back with a sharp gaze, scaring Gu Meng Meng so much that she shrank her neck. He did not ask anything and Gu Meng Meng confessed herself, saying honestly, the beast deity told me. Gu Meng Meng repeated the version of the story that the beast deity told her about Wang Xiaoxin and Wales, word for word. Then, she looked at Wales quietly for a while before asking, what's wrong? Did the beast deity say something wrong? Wales seemed to have sunk into deep thought. She did not know if it was because the alcohol had gotten to his head and caused him to be slow or his thoughts had flown elsewhere. Anyway, he was just dazed for a long time before he suddenly laughed, a very joyful kind of laughter. He held Gu Meng Meng's shoulders with both hands, his eyes shimmering with tears as he asked word by word, the beast deity really said that she was waiting for me. Gu Meng Meng nodded blankly, saying, what's wrong? Things between the two of you are not like this. Wales slowly closed his eyes as tears flowed down from the corners of his eyes. His lips were still curled up with a smile that made one's heart ache for him. Little shit, are you alright? Gu Meng Meng's heart ached for Wales as she looked at him. Wales nodded and said, I'm fine, I can't be any better. Knowing that she is waiting for me, I did not waste these 1,000 years. Come, Gu Meng Meng, have a drink with me. This word me made Gu Meng Meng feel at ease all of a sudden. Regardless of whether he was called Wabi or Wales, he was still her little shit. Just like what Leah had said, if Wales was Wabi's true form, then she should accept him. Although he was not as cute as Wabi and was so arrogant and awkward, no matter what, as long as he was little shit, he was still her friend. Ah, crossing 1,000 years and becoming friends with the husband of the previous messenger of the beast deity, Snake's father, this could really be considered as forgetting the difference in age. Gu Meng Meng raised her wine glass and clinked it with Wales without a word, saying, "A toast to you, to congratulate you on your return." Cheers! Wales didn't stand on ceremony either. He downed the cup of wine without leaving a single drop behind. Gu Meng Meng really wanted to say that wine was not sorghum liquor, it was really not the way to drink it. But little shit's current state. Forget it, as long as he's happy drinking, why bother with the method of wine tasting? Being carefree was the most important thing. Wales hugged Gu Mingming's neck and said in a brotherly manner, "Gu Tu Meng, help me do something. In the future, I will help you even if I have to go through mountains of daggers and seas of fire, all right?" Gu Meng Meng smiled. This Wales acted so cold when he came back, but after a few barrels of wine, his little shit nature was revealed. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have worried about him in the morning. She should have just fed him 2 buckets and see if he would still be so arrogant. However, as long as little shit could come back, she would not be angry at him. After all, when she first inherited Snake's memories, her personality changed for a long time. Little shit had only been awkward for half a day, so he could be forgiven. So Gu Meng Meng raised her head and said in a very righteous manner, "What's our relationship? Was there even a need to talk about this? Tell me, what do you want me to do?" Little shit chuckled and said, "To seduce Cole." Chapter 1533. Wales waved his hands carelessly and said, "Who asked you to really sleep with him?" "TSK, so stupid, how can I push my own daughter-in-law onto another male's bed? Do you think I am a fool?" Gu Meng Meng suddenly felt speechless. Her relationship with Snake was very subtle, but she really did not seem to be worthy of being called daughter-in-law by Wales. "I just want you to plot against Cole once, to make him fall in love with you wholeheartedly, because only then can his heart be used." Wales smiled in a drunken haze, with the unique craftiness and malevolence of the snake tribe. With a face full of schemes, he said, "Do you know where the spirit of the rocky cliffs is?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head, but she had a question in her mind. Could it be that the spirit of the rocky cliffs was related to Cole? Wales seemed to have seen through Gu Mingming's thoughts, so he smiled and nodded his head, saying, "The spirit of the rocky cliffs is a derivative of the soul of the forest. For a tree to grow, it needs to absorb nutrients, and Cole is that nutrient now." Gu Meng Meng looked at Wales in confusion. Wales let out a drunken burp, but didn't say anything. He only stretched out a finger and pointed at the air, saying, "The soul of the forest originally had 2 leaves, one on the left and one on the right. Both of them can save lives. They can grow flesh from bones and bring the dead back to life." "Yes, that's it. But, actually, it still has a 3rd leaf. Only when this 3rd leaf grows out and fully unfurls, will the spirit of the rocky cliffs appear." As Wales spoke, he swayed to Gu Meng Meng and placed both his hands on her shoulders. He tried to make his gaze look serious, but Gu Meng Meng only saw his drunken expression. "This first leaf is called benevolence, the second is called kindness, the third is called love. So, if you want the spirit of the rocky cliffs to appear, you have to make Cole fall in love with you, love you so much that he is willing to die for you. Only then will the 3rd leaf of the soul of the forest unfurl." With that, Wales let go of Gu Mingming's hand and stared straight at his palm. "Only when you gather all 7 treasures, can I be truly revived, and then I can see her. 1,000 years, I have wasted a whole 1,000 years." Wales let go of Gu Mingming's hand and stared straight at his palm. Gu Meng Meng puffed up her cheeks and thought for a long while before shaking her head. "I don't understand. Why must Cole fall in love with me before the 3rd leaf will bloom?" "Because you won't love him." Wales seemed to have thought of a particularly funny thing. His eyes were filled with an amused smile as he said, do you know what is the most painful torture in this world? Gu Mengmeng replied, parting forever. Gu Mengmeng had experienced these 4 words from Snake and again from Gregory. It could be said that she was deeply moved by them. Wales shook his head and said, parting in life and death is a sad thing. The so-called sad thing is that although it is difficult, it will pass. Just like me, I have been suffering for 1,000 years, but when I think about how I can return to her side soon, I feel that this 1,000 years of suffering is just an instant. Wales paused before looking at Gu Mengmeng. When Snake died, you must have been in great pain, but has that pain faded to the point that you can't even remember it? So, the most torturous thing in this world is not parting forever. Because although it is painful, it will eventually be forgotten and it will slowly get better. Chapter 1534. Wales laughed coldly and said, you can't get what you want. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and did not understand what he meant. Wales said, as long as Cole falls in love with you and you don't love him, this torture will stimulate the growth of the 3rd leaf of the soul of the forest. The more painful he is, the faster the leaf will grow. When the 3rd leaf fully blooms, his heart, which is used as nourishment, will be sucked dry and become as hard as a rock, becoming the spirit of the rocky cliffs. Gu Mengmeng frowned and her heart was filled with lingering fear. Not because of anything else, but because the soul of the forest had been placed on Qishuan's body from the start, Gu Mengmeng's brows were tightly knitted together. She had always thought that the 7 treasures were all life-saving items and did not expect the 3rd leaf of the soul of the forest, which represented life force, to be such a deadly thing. Then when Cole placed the soul of the forest into Qishuan's body, did he know the truth or was it an accident? If he knew, why did he then place the soul of the forest into his body? If he did not know, impossible, Cole's understanding of the 7 treasures was far above Gu Mengmeng's. He could not have placed the soul of the forest into Qishuan's body without knowing anything. So, Cole must be plotting something. Is there any way to let the 3rd leaf bloom and obtain the spirit of the rocky cliffs without the person who is used as nourishment to die? Gu Mengmeng asked. Wales nodded and answered honestly, yes, if you truly fall in love with him, cut out half of your heart and give it to him, he will not have to die. After Wales finished speaking, he laughed and looked at Gu Mengmeng, asking, do you know? If you fall in love with Cole, cut out your heart to continue his life. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, no. Wales nodded approvingly and said, so, Cole is dead for sure. Gu Mengmeng was not as optimistic as Wales. She could not understand Cole's motive for doing this. She did not believe that someone like Cole would risk his life for no reason. Could it be that Cole was so naive to think that Gu Mengmeng would cut out her heart to save him? Yes, because Qishuan's life was tied to his. Gu Mengmeng might really cut out half of her heart to give it to Cole for her son. But the problem was that there was an important prerequisite for such a life extension: she had to truly fall in love with him. This is even harder than cutting out the heart. Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, I feel that Cole should know the secret of the 3rd leaf of the soul of the forest, and he knows very well how much I want him to die. Under such circumstances, it is impossible for him to fall in love with me and allow the 3rd leaf to grow. Wales shook his head and said mysteriously, do you know why he hid Orion? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Chapter 1535. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips. She loathed Cole and even hated him. Every time he used Qi Xian to threaten her, her hatred and disgust towards him would increase. She wished she could skin him alive and break his bones. But she still felt repulsed by using emotions to feign civility. Yes, it was undeniable that Wales was right. To the males in the beast world, not getting what you want was the most heart-wrenching thing. But this situation was really despicable and Gu Mengmeng did not want to involve herself in it. Wales stared at Gu Mengmeng for a long time and understood the repulsion in her eyes. He took 2 steps back and said, Now we have 6 out of the 7 treasures, we only lack the spirit of the rocky cliffs. Gu Meng Meng. I beg of you. As long as you help me this time, whales will owe you for the rest of my life. Gu Meng Meng knew about whales and Wang Xiaoxin's relationship. It would be an exaggeration to say that she could empathize with him. You would never know how painful it was until you were stabbed. When the beast deity first told her this story, she already felt that whales was very pitiful. After knowing that whales was little shit, this feeling was magnified by many times. Little shit was an important friend of hers. She could not bear to see him go through a love crisis and return after narrowly escaping death, only to repeat the same mistake and fail on the verge of success. She could not bear to see him fail on the verge of success. But, is there no other way to get the spirit of the rocky cliffs? Gu Meng Meng asked. Whale shook his head with a bitter smile and said, if the second leaf of the soul of the forest has not bloomed, then we just need to change the provider. For example, the birdman on the Moda Mountains is very suitable. Unfortunately, the second leaf has already bloomed and the soul of the forest has already fused with coal. There is no way to retrieve it. Gu Meng Meng, you need to be moral towards good people. Why can't you do it to coal? I know you don't like to make use of other people's love. Whales looked at Gu Meng Meng with pleading eyes. He said word by word, but you have not done anything up till now. Isn't he still using his filthy thoughts to love you? Let me tell you, I am too familiar with the way coal looks at you. I have seen this look countless times 1,000 years ago. It is a crazy obsession, a twisted possessiveness and a sick desire. Even if you don't do anything, he won't let you go. Orating was just the beginning. He had used harming the people around you to warn you not to disobey him and not to anger him. What about next time? Who could it be? Hede and his brothers. Sandy. 16 golden hairpins. Or Leah, Elvis or anyone else who can coerce you. Whales held on to Gu Meng Meng's shoulders with both hands and stared into her eyes. He said solemnly, if you want to protect the people around you from harm, the best way is to strike first. Give him the illusion that there is hope between you and him. In order to maintain this hope, he will not dare to act rashly and hurt the people around you. What you have to do is not to take the initiative, not to refuse, and not to take responsibility. When his hopes climbed to the peak, you could crush his hopes ruthlessly. As long as you were ruthless enough, the third leaf would definitely bloom. At that time, I can be with her again, and you can get rid of him completely. Other than Cole, no one will be hurt. And Cole only has himself to blame. Chapter 1536. She could not tell if it was because the purity of Sandy's wine was too low, or because Wales had the previous experience of drinking too much, so he could drink more than before. This time, he drank almost all the wine by himself, but he did not act crazily like the previous time. He just became more talkative, and his emotions became more agitated. Gu Meng Meng returned to her room and lay in between Elvis and Leah. Her 2 large tails covered her body, and she rubbed them from time to time. She stared straight at the ceiling, thinking about Whale's words. Leah and Elvis both knew what she was upset about, but Elvis was not good with words, so he did not say anything. He just gave Leah a look, indicating for him to comfort Gu Meng Meng. No matter what her decision was, they would support her. It was just that their hearts ached for her to be so upset. Leah gently tidied the stray hair on Gu Meng Meng's forehead. He said gently, Meng Meng, actually, Elvis and I do not support this honey trap. Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah, waiting for him to continue. Leah smiled. In the beast world, any problem should be solved by the males. Let's not talk about the fact that we at least have Elvis who can fight Cole to a draw. Even without the Beast King, the 2 of us should be the ones trying our best to mediate with Cole. There is no reason to push you out. Gu Meng Meng turned sideways and hugged Leah. She buried her face in his chest and said softly, "I don't mind this." Leah patted Gu Mingming's back gently. "I know you don't mind, but Elvis and I are also very embarrassed to always hide behind a female. But now is not the time to care about our pride. Of course, I can set up a trap for Elvis to kill Cole, and you don't even have to dirty your hands. But if the 7 treasures don't appear and Cole dies, then Qi Xian will definitely be buried with him. You can't bear to let Qi Xian go, and that is why we are holding back." Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and nodded. "I know, if I can be heartless and not care about Qi Xuan's life, you and Elvis will not have to be held back by him. But I really can't bear to sacrifice 2,000 to kill 1,000 enemies in the beast world. As long as I can achieve my goal, I will not care about the cost. Qi Xian is my flesh and blood. I can't bear to part with him." Leah kissed Gu Mingming's forehead and said, "We know you can't bear to, and we won't do anything that will make you sad." Hence, Whale's suggestion seemed to be the only beneficial solution for now. Only then can the 7 treasures appear. Not only can it protect Qi Xian, but it can also stop Cole's crazy idea. Whales can completely revive Gu, and Gregory can also return. At the same time, it can also fulfill the 1,000-year relationship between Whales and Wang Xiaoxin. It can be said that there are many advantages and no disadvantages. Leah sighed and gave a self-mocking smile as he hugged Gu Mengmeng even tighter. He said, "We all understand the logic, but I can no longer analyze everything clearly like I did 4 years ago and use logic to make the best choice. Meng, I can't bear to see you suffer, not even a little bit. So if you don't want to do it, then don't. In any case, I'll be happy if that door never opens. Otherwise, I'll always feel uneasy. I'm afraid that if you walk through that door, I won't be able to find you again." Chapter 1537. Leo laid out the pros and cons for her to hear, but did not make the decision for her. Leo was telling her that no matter what her final decision was, he and Elvis would support her unconditionally, and would help her deal with the aftermath as usual. So, she could do whatever she thought she should do. That night, Gu Mengmeng tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Luckily, Gu Mingming's body had 2 of the 7 treasures supporting her, so she was not too tired after a night of not sleeping. But the next morning, a commotion came from the stone castle's entrance, causing Gu Mengmeng to frown. These days, there were really not many who dared to behave atrociously at her doorstep. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng down from the 2nd floor and saw a wild wolf and a wild fox tearing at each other at the stone castle's entrance. The scene was bloody, violent and strange. It was as if a Samoyed and a husky had both contracted rabies and were biting each other to death. But the wild wolf and the wild fox's battle was much more violent, and the scene was even more chaotic. "Fox King is so imposing. Did you come to my doorstep to bully me?" Gu Mingming's lukewarm words successfully stopped the battle. The wolf and the fox bared their fangs to intimidate each other, and slowly retreated to the sides under the orders of their respective kings. Cole's face was pale, and even though the wounds on his body had mostly healed, he still looked miserable. It was obvious that little shit had not been merciful yesterday. If not for the fact that the soul of the forest had a 3rd leaf on his chest, little shit would have killed Cole in a moment of hot-headedness without caring about Qi Xuan's life. Cole could be considered lucky to have escaped this calamity. "Ah, Gu, you went to visit me yesterday, right?" Cole's eyes seemed to be able to automatically block out everyone else, and only look at Gu Mengmeng. His smile was deep and sickly, and his voice was filled with anticipation and carefully trying to please her. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath without anyone noticing, and nodded. "Yeah, I was stopped." A smile bloomed on Cole's face, and he was overjoyed. "I have already killed the person who stopped you. I skinned him to make a cloak for you. You can wear it this winter. I have already given the order that no matter when, as long as you want to see me, no one will dare to stop you." The one who stopped her was an orc, not a wild fox, Gu Mingming's stomach churned and she frowned unhappily. Don't you know I went to settle scores with you yesterday? I know. Cole was still smiling and answered matter-of-factly. If he didn't stop me, you might not be alive to talk to me today. But Cole was unconcerned. He just took a step forward and said, who knows? Maybe you couldn't do it when you saw how badly injured I was yesterday. He caused me to lose a chance to show weakness in front of you and gain your pity. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly in her heart. Cole really could not differentiate between friend and foe. She was a person who wished for nothing more than for him to die. She could dig a bloody hole in his chest without blinking an eye. Even a fool could tell that the person who stopped her yesterday was sincerely protecting Cole. Otherwise, who would dare to stop two beast kings? Tell me, why are you here today? Gu Mengmeng pointed at the ground full of wolf foxes' corpses and said, surely you didn't do this just to dirty my place. Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue and said with a displeased expression, I wanted to spend the winter in Sauter this year, but now it's a mess and there's the smell of blood everywhere, so annoying. I'm leaving, I'll be returning to St. Nazaire this year to spend the winter. Ah, Gu. Cole did not expect Gu Mengmeng to be chased away by his ruckus, so he called out anxiously, I will help you clean up the place and make sure there is no smell of blood. This year, it was better to stay in Sauter for the winter. After all, there's an underground tunnel here and you can still play with Sandy during winter. You won't be too bored, right? Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole, as if she was thinking about something. Chapter 1539. I probably won't have time to play with Sandy this winter. Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Cole, then at Lee's face. She smiled shyly and said, I have the love of the sky and Leah has agreed to let me give birth to a nest of little foxes to play with. Cole's eyes reddened in an instant. He grabbed Gu Mingming's wrist and squeezed out a sentence through his teeth, if you want to give birth to foxes, I will give birth to them with you. You are not allowed to mate with others. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at Cole, then looked at her wrist and chuckled, Cole, are you mistaken? You are not even my male, how can it be your turn to give birth to children with me? As long as you are willing, I will be your male. Cole looked at Gu Mengmeng with a ferocious stubbornness. Gu Mengmeng struggled to no avail but she was not angry. Instead, she smiled and asked Cole, you are a stray beast, how can you be my male? Even without the mating mark, I can still impregnate you. Maya and Miranda are the best proof. Cole defended himself because he felt that Gu Mingming's words had a hidden meaning, as if she was giving him a chance. Hence, he tried his best. He wanted this chance, a chance to stay by Gu Mingming's side. Ha! Gu Mengmeng sneered. Her clear eyes were filled with sarcasm and disgust. Don't you know that I have misophobia? Why would I want someone else's used second-hand goods? Is your brain filled with hyaluronic acid? Did you even flatten the lines in your brain? Cole did not let go and said, you know that the Snow Fox tribe has no concept of chastity. But if you mind, I promise I will never touch other females in the future. You are the only one, all right. Gu Mengmeng did not say a word and just gave Elvis a look. Elvis's fists were already clenched tightly. Receiving Gu Mingming's signal, he raised his sharp claws and slashed at Cole's wrist. Cole's hand was broken by Elvis before and he was traumatized by it. So when Elvis raised his claws, Cole immediately let go. Gu Mengmeng moved her wrist and chuckled, how much do you like me? It's just so, you let go when Elvis just moved his fingers. With that, Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck, hubby, let's go. Elvis's gaze was fixated on Gu Mingming's face, not even giving Cole a look of disdain. He kissed Gu Mingming's little nose dotingly and said, all right. Leo waved his tail and smiled elegantly when he passed Cole, Fox, King, Cole, and Cole, Fox, Ant. Leah. Fox and Leah, Cole, Leah, Leah, at, Leah, Wolf. So let's go back now. Elvis and I will go out and help you replenish some of your favorite fruits and vegetables. It won't be a problem to survive the cold. Goo, goo, goo of goo. Goo, 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 and to, coal of, goo, at, to say, and. Chapter 1540. Gu Meng Meng could not understand Cole anymore. She patted Elvis's shoulder, gesturing for him to put her down. Elvis did so. Gu Meng Meng took 2 steps towards Cole and tilted her head to look at him. Do you know what price you have to pay to obtain the spirit of the rocky cliffs? I do. Cole answered without hesitation. Seeing Gu Meng Meng take 2 steps towards him, he smiled warmly. If you know, you still. Cole took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Gu Meng Meng. He looked at Gu Meng Meng with a deep and resentful gaze. He smiled. Gregory also knows what price you have to pay to obtain the love of the sky. Didn't he still bring you up Moda Mountains? Do you think I am worse than him? Ah, Gu, let me tell you. My heart for you is firmer than anyone else. For you, I can do anything. Cole placed his hand over his heart. His lips curled into a devilish smile. Qi Xian was trained by me. Do you really think he can hide his little tricks from me? Using bewitchment in front of me is no different from showing off in front of an expert. But I still let him do as he pleases. Why do you think so? Gu Meng Meng shook her head. She pursed her lips and did not say a word. Jiaoyu was right about one thing. You should never try to understand a lunatic's thoughts. Because you could not understand his logic. In Gu Mingming's eyes, the Cole before her was a complete lunatic. Just his plan to occupy the earth was enough for him to be locked up in the Green Mountain Lunatic Asylum for the rest of his life. Because I need a reason to treat you well openly. I need a reason to tell the world that I love you. Cole looked up and laughed. It was filled with arrogance and sorrow. His voice was a little hoarse and full of vicissitudes. Everyone says that I betray the world, but when has the world ever treated me well? Ah, Gu, you only know that I don't treat Leo well. But do you know why I hate him and schemed against him? Cole looked back. His gaze locked onto Gu Mingming's face. Because my mother has the same bloodline as Miranda. Mother gave birth to 9 children. Only one of each child survived, because the others were eaten by their fathers the moment they were born. Gu Meng Meng felt a chill in her heart and instinctively took a step back. And the reason why we are still alive is not because of the greatness of parental love or the remaining kinship and humanity. Cole took a step forward and closed in on Gu Meng Meng. He suddenly raised his hand and pointed accurately at Leah. We are alive to feed him. Leah nodded and said, let's eat him. What? Gu Meng Meng stared at Cole in disbelief. Accident. Cole smiled bitterly and shook his head. He pointed at Leah and slowly wrapped his arm around Gu Mingming's waist. Finally, he hugged her once, and she was so shocked that she forgot to struggle. Cole started to understand why Leah dared to reveal such a tragic and unbearable past in front of her. It was because only by tearing open his festering scars and letting her see his bloody scars, would he be able to obtain her gentleness. And the tiny Gu Meng Meng had infinite warmth. As long as he hugged her like this, the heart-wrenching pain would be alleviated. The pure and flawless son of the deity, shouldering the prosperity of the Snow Fox tribe. In order to obtain more power, my parents left the most outstanding one among the 9 brothers alive. Then, they personally skinned and broke their bones one by one to feed him. Aside from the topic, I said before, I want to kill Cole. And it was a soft knife cutting his flesh. The pain was endless and it was a killing that struck at his heart. Chapter 1541. Gu Meng Meng widened her eyes and suddenly turned to look at Leah. Lee's face was also as pale as a sheet. He took 2 steps back and shook his head with much difficulty, expressing his disbelief. Cole turned Gu Mingming's body and pressed her back tightly against his chest. With one arm around her waist and the other holding her chin, he forced her to look at Leah. He pressed his face against her ear and said seductively, like a snake demon bewitching Eve, word by word, "Otherwise, how do you think a Ninth Highness who only knows how to research witch doctor spells and has no actual combat experience could rise to the 3rd level? Those brothers who suddenly disappeared, where did they go?" Lee's face turned paler. When he was still the Ninth Highness, he was the pride of the entire Snow Fox tribe. His meals were all taken care of by professionals, and the food was all processed and served to him. There was no skin, fur, or broken bones in the food. The raw blood was also sent up in stone bowls. As for those brothers, in the beast world, it was normal for males to die in battle, so he did not think much about the death of a brother every 1 or 2 years. But now that Cole mentioned it, he recalled the crucial period of his level up. It really matched the time when his brothers disappeared. Ugh! Leah suddenly turned around and vomited while leaning against the wall. Leah had said before that he was not a kind person. All his gentleness and kindness were only given to Gu Mengmeng alone. He killed people like flies and never showed mercy. He placed everyone on the chessboard and calculated every possible move without regret. When he was at his craziest, it was not like he had not eaten orcs before. But his own brothers, biological brothers, he was actually cut into pieces by his parents and brought to him. He didn't even know that he was eating his own brother's flesh and drinking his brother's blood as he studied the witch doctor's method of saving people. Leah vomited until his bile came out. His eyes were bloodshot from the pain. Gu Mingming's heart ached. She wanted to go to Lee's side to comfort him but was held back tightly by Cole. He always thought that I treated him well in order to make him careless. But that wasn't the case. In the beginning, I only wanted to protect myself. I spared no effort to please him because I hoped that he would see me as more important, so that my parents wouldn't dare to do anything to me. I just want to live, even if I have to be a dog that wags its tail and begs for pity in front of him. Cole gritted his teeth and said word by word, I succeeded. Because of his reliance on me, I was able to escape death time and time again. In the end, even my eldest brother died. Gu Mingming's body stiffened. She turned her head with difficulty and looked at Cole in disbelief. Cole chuckled. The eldest son of the Snow Fox clan will be in charge of political power. However, in order to help him ascend from level 2 to level 3, the Void Mother did not hesitate to order her males to surround and kill Big Bro. Then, she delivered Big Bro's flesh to him and coaxed him into eating it. Then I would be the last of the 9 brothers, except for him. Tell me, in order for him to reach the peak of 3rd level and welcome the arrival of the messenger of the beast deity in the most perfect state, will the mother beast still be afraid of Lee's concern for me? As for those you don't care about, you won't even spare a glance, regardless of whether they're dead or alive. Isn't this similar to me? Even if there were corpses floating in front of me and blood flowing like a river, I wouldn't even frown. But as long as you're unhappy, I'll go to war. So Gu, you don't have to reject me. We are the same kind. Only I have the right to accompany you. Only I can truly understand you. Cole appeared in front of Gu Mengmeng in a flash. He caressed Gu Mingming's little face with his large hands and said gently, "You're right. We are not in the wrong. The ones in the wrong are the weak who were trampled on. Be it me who was treated like a dog in the past, or Leah who was tortured by me. But it's different now. We are all strong enough and have completely changed our roles from the prey to the hunter. The rules are set by me, and I am yours." Digression. Knocking on the blackboard, she drew out the previous hints. Cole used to be the king behind the stray beasts. The idea of Peter torturing Elvis and his brothers was Cole's idea. The perverted idea of brothers killing each other and eating each other was Cole's instruction. The source of inspiration was his own personal experience. Chapter 1543. Cole's other hand slowly grasped Gu Mingming's wrist. With a seductive smile, he said, standing on the shoulders of the Beast King, "You are at the top of the food chain. Overlooking everything, you are the strongest and no one dares to go against you." Gu Mingming's eyes were wide open. But, before Cole could hold on to Gu Mingming's wrist firmly, it was grabbed by another hand. A cold voice rang in front of him, filled with disdain and sarcasm. It said a simple sentence, "Do you think I'm dead?" Crack. It was the sound of bones being crushed. The history department was shockingly similar. This hand had been crushed by Elvis for the second time. But this time, Cole's powers were much stronger than before. Hence, he turned his other hand into a claw and attacked Elvis. Elvis took a step back and loosened his grip. Cole flexed his dangling wrist and smiled. "Ah, Gu, are you satisfied now?" Gu Mengmeng frowned, not understanding what he meant. "Didn't you say that I only like you so much that I can't even bear to part with a wrist? This time, this hand is crushed again. Although it won't break, it really hurts." Cole smiled as he showed off his broken hand. "You want the spirit of the rocky cliffs, don't you? If you want me to be devastated, you have to give me something sweet to make me more infatuated with you. I have already created a chance for you. Do you want to come over and comfort me, mmm?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole coldly. Then, she slowly spat out 2 words. "No." With that, Gu Mengmeng let Elvis carry her away. Looking at Gu Mingming's resolute back view, Cole smiled indulgently and helplessly. He sighed. "TSK, you are indeed the woman that I, Cole, fancy. So ruthless and heartless." With that, Cole did not care about his pride. He leisurely followed Gu Mengmeng to the borders of Sandy's territory. He watched as she bid farewell to Sandy. Hedda and his brothers and Oriton, who was severely injured by Cole, were entrusted to Sandy's family. Due to their relationship with Elvis, the 7 wolves naturally would not shirk away and promised to take good care of the males in the Wolf King's family. On the other hand, Arnold's identity was rather awkward. After all, it was his king who made the other party look half dead. Thus, he didn't say anything and just quietly stood at the side with his head lowered. No one knew what he was thinking. When Gu Mengmeng walked out of Sandy's house, she saw Cole still standing there, smiling without saying a word. He was calmly using his actions to show that no matter where Gu Mengmeng went to spend the winter, he would shamelessly follow her. Gu Mengmeng considered for a while and decided that returning to Saint Nazaire was not a wise choice. The reason was simple: Cole was a scourge and she had to deal with this scourge for a while. There were 16 valued females in Saint Nazaire and Guam Mengmeng did not want any of them to follow in Maya's footsteps. So, Gu Mingming's final decision was to go to the Snake King Valley. The Snake King Valley was Snake's base camp. The reputation that Snake had built up over thousands of years would not crumble overnight. Even though Ellie had conspired with Cole previously, it was with Snake's permission. Whales had been guarding the Snake King Valley with Wabiai's identity for the past 800 years. Now that he had awakened and was a demigod above the Beast King, the snake beasts naturally had the support of the masses. If she wanted to find an absolutely clean place in the beast world where Cole could not even stab a needle, the Snake King Valley was definitely the best choice. Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. I will continue tomorrow. These 2 days, I have been thinking of all kinds of perverted ways to kill Cole to appease everyone's anger. Speechless, he sighed and began to clean them up one by one. He peeled off the beast hides and tanned them into fur, then marinated the meat and stored them separately. Gu Mengmeng, on the other hand, flapped her wings and flew up to a tree branch. She sat on a high spot and swung her legs, humming Guo Jing singing in the tree. Elvis automatically went to help Leah handle the prey. Cole hesitated for a moment before joining in. These three males, who were like fire and water and had always fought each other to the death, were actually preparing food for the winter in harmony. This scene was really strange. But it was also thanks to them that they did not cause any trouble. When the first snow fell, Snake's cave was already stocked with enough food. Chapter 1545. Gu Meng Meng rubbed her hands and shrugged her shoulders, grinning. It's a pity there's no more wine, or else I would have gotten you both drunk today. Elvis and Leah looked at each other and smiled. Ever since they got drunk together that year, and Gu Meng Meng took the opportunity to satisfy her Fujoshi heart, the two of them had never drunk together again. Between the two of them, one of them had to remain sober, so that Gu Meng Meng's imagination would not run wild again. Gu Meng Meng eagerly filled 3 cups with water and passed one to Elvis and Leah. Then, she took one for herself and clinked it with the two of them. She smiled sweetly. Hubby, husband, happy wedding anniversary. There's no wine, so let's use water to replace wine. Cheers, shall we? Happy wedding anniversary. Happy wedding anniversary. Elvis and Leah said in unison, smiling gently and blissfully. There was no calendar in the beast world, so they treated the first day of winter as their wedding anniversary. The three of them were blissfully happy and warm, while Cole, who was sitting at the side, was isolated outside. Snake's cave did not have any cover. After all, before Gu Meng Meng came, Snake was the only one living here. Even though they were in the same space, he could not blend in with them. Cole clutched his heart with his hand and smiled bitterly. He knew that sticking close to her was asking for trouble, but he was already feeling so uncomfortable at the beginning. He really did not know how he was going to survive this long winter. Gu Meng Meng did not have time to care about Cole. She just ate with Elvis and Leah while recalling the interesting things that happened in the past few years. Sometimes she would grumble coquettishly, and sometimes she would laugh out loud. Cole could not take his eyes off her. He just waited with his eyes fixed on her, thinking that she might mention him in one of her sentences. Even if it was hatred. Unfortunately, there was not a single word. After a day of fooling around, Gu Meng Meng was so sleepy that she fell into a deep sleep in Elvis's arms. Carry her into sleep. Meng Meng doesn't like others to see her sleeping, Leah said to Elvis while clearing the cutlery. Elvis nodded and carried Gu Meng Meng into a cave that they had dug out temporarily before winter. It could be considered as a separate room for the three of them to rest in this winter. Cole was allowed to stay in the cave, but he was not allowed to go near this room. He was clear of his own identity and his own motive, so he would not touch Gu Meng Meng's bottom line. And so, he just stayed in the corner and stared longingly at the entrance of the cave, as if he could see the person sleeping soundly through the wall. After Leah finished packing, he did not enter the cave. Instead, he sat beside Cole. Without looking at Cole, he just sat side by side with him and said nonchalantly, "What you said to Meng Meng that day, was it a lie, wasn't it?" Cole did not look at Leah and only chuckled softly. "Ah, Gu understands psychology. The chances of success in lying to her are very slim." Leah shook his head. Chapter 1546. Cole nodded with a chilly smile. "So you intend to complain to Gu about this? Expose me for hiding my ambition and disguising myself as a pitiful person to gain sympathy?" Leah shook his head. "If I wanted to expose you, I would have done it long ago. Why wait till now?" "Oh. Then what is your motive for telling me all this?" Cole asked softly. Leah said, "I'm just reminding you, it's useless to act pitiful. 5 years ago, I made myself even more pathetic than you, but I still couldn't move her to forgive me in one winter. At the very least, she still liked me back then. But you? I'd like to hear more." Cole was a bad guy, but he was a smart one. Leah pointed out the loophole in his first step to express his sincerity. Gu Mengmeng wanted the spirit of the rocky cliffs, and Leah would definitely help her. So this winter, he would let go of the past and make Cole fall madly in love with Gu Mengmeng. The first step was to not destroy Cole's facade in front of Gu Mengmeng. Only when Gu Mengmeng felt that Cole was pitiful would her heart soften a little towards him. And this little soften was enough to make Cole go crazy. Conspiring with the enemy to drive himself crazy. Cole felt that there was probably no other person in this world who would do this. Leah smiled lightly. Then, he patted Cole's shoulder. There will be a good opportunity within 3 days. As for how to grasp it, it's up to you. With that, Leah stood up and returned to his room. A good opportunity within 3 days. Cole's confusion only lasted until the next morning when Gu Mengmeng woke up. Moaning, she stretched her body and flipped over to see Leah smiling at her from the bedside with his chin propped on his hand. "Good morning, hubby." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her eyes and greeted him softly. Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's soft little face that had just woken up and smiled gently. "Are you awake?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and leaned into Lee's arms coquettishly. She found a comfortable spot on his chest and said lazily with the coquettishness of the morning, "I'm awake, but I still want to stay a little longer." Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng back and kissed her forehead, saying, "You might still have to stay for a long while." Gu Mengmeng did not understand. She looked up and pressed her lips against Lee's lowered head. She thought it was just an accidental kiss, but Leah deepened it. After a while, the entire room was filled with the fox's seductive fragrance. "Leah, so early in the morning, males have a specific physiological reaction in the morning. You understand, right?" As Leah spoke, he flipped over and pinned Gu Mengmeng under him. He kissed her from her forehead all the way down to her neck. "Didn't you want a nest of little foxes? Now, as you wish." No, that's not good." Gu Mengmeng's emotions were in a mess from Lee's kiss and she did not know what to do. Before the drowsiness had completely dissipated, her mind was occupied by ambiguity. Her whole body was in a state of chaos, but her body gave a more direct response than her mind. Winter is the most leisurely time of the year. "Now that you're pregnant, Elvis, and I can take care of you wholeheartedly. There's no better time than now." Lee's large hand moved down Gu Mengmeng's arm and interlocked his fingers with hers, pressing her hands to the sides of her body. Then, he leaned close to her left ear and whispered softly, "Moreover, you're so beautiful. I can't hold it in anymore. Aside from the topic, hurry, there's no more time, hurry up and board the train. Look at the car plate, 4927792773. After boarding the train, look for the administrator to check the tickets. Babies with more than 800 fans can enter the VIP cabin to enjoy the special treatment of overflowing meat fragrance. Note, this train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. This train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten." Chapter 1547. The males in the beast world had sharp hearing. This was originally an advantage, but now, it had become a torture. Whatever Leah and Gu Mengmeng did and said in the cave, the two males at the door could hear it clearly. The fox's seductive fragrance that permeated the air also stimulated the two males who had an especially sensitive sense of smell. Cole's eyes reddened and he wanted to rush into the cave. How could Elvis let him enter? So, the two beast kings started fighting in the empty space of Snake's cave. The sounds in the cave got louder and louder, and the fight outside the cave became fiercer and fiercer. When the last chant was heard from inside, Elvis's sharp claws dug into Cole's chest. Both of them were stunned, but Elvis did not take the chance to kill Cole. After all, Gu Mengmeng did not ask Cole to come along to kill him. Or rather, not to kill him at this moment. As expected, Gu Mengmeng fell into a deep sleep after the fight. When she opened her eyes again, the cave was filled with the aroma of meat. She could hear Elvis's steady and clear breathing and heartbeat, as well as the sound of Lee's chopsticks rubbing against the sides of the pot as he stirred the food. These small details pieced together to form a blissful scene. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and hugged Elvis, calling out sweetly, "Hubby." Elvis kissed Gu Meng Meng's little face, then said in a low voice, "You slept for the whole day." "Yeah." Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, "I'm hungry." Leah was right, you will definitely wake up when you smell the aroma of food. As he spoke, Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng up and used the warm water he had prepared to help her wash up. As he washed her face, he remained silent for a moment before saying out of the blue, "I'm sorry." Gu Meng Meng's eyes were wide open. "Aw." Gu Meng Meng held on to Elvis's big hands like a kitten, her little face peeking out from the beast's skin and looking at Elvis curiously. Elvis's gaze was a little disappointed and he said, "In the future, I will work harder to serve you." Gu Meng Meng blinked her eyes and thought for a moment before her face turned red. The service Elvis was referring to was definitely not something like washing her face and brushing her teeth, but, cough, cough, cough. Gu Meng Meng choked on her own saliva. How should she put it? She was a little timid. After all, she had just been tormented by Leah yesterday. If Elvis were to do it again, she felt that she might die on the bed because she was a beautiful woman. Elvis patted Gu Meng Meng's back lightly and said, "This time, you slept for a whole day, but the previous time, you only slept for one night. From this, it can be seen that you were not satisfied the previous time. It's my fault, I won't do it again." Gu Meng Meng face-bombed. So Elvis judged her satisfaction level based on how long she slept after that. Chapter 1548. Elvis looked at Gu Meng Meng's timid look and felt warm and itchy in his heart. Undeniably, her almost begging attitude had pleased him. After all, males had the strongest desire to conquer in that matter and would not be willing to be outdone by anyone. And it was a delightful thing to receive the approval of one's own female. "Ah, so the one who should be working harder is me." Leo leaned against the entrance of the cave and looked at Gu Meng Meng meaningfully with a faint smile. Gu Meng Meng choked and shook her head violently. She instinctively held onto her waist and said, "There's really no need. Both of you better slack off a little, or else I'm really afraid that one day I will be torn apart on the bed by both of you and won't be able to wake up." Leah and Elvis looked at each other and smiled. They did not say anything else and just called Gu Meng Meng out to eat. After Elvis helped Gu Meng Meng wash up, he used a piece of beast skin to wrap her up before carrying her out of the cave. Gu Meng Meng felt very awkward the moment she came out. She was so confused by Lee's teasing yesterday that she had forgotten that there was an outsider staying in her house, so Cole had been listening to live AVI for an entire day at the cave entrance yesterday. As a performer, Gu Meng Meng really wanted to bang her head against Lee's chest and die. "Aw, Gu." Cole's voice sounded a little weak and tired. The corners of his lips were heavy but he forced a smile and said, "You don't dare to look at me, is it because your heart aches?" Gu Meng Meng laughed dryly and said, "No, it's because it's awkward." "Why is it awkward?" "Because I heard you mating with Leah." Cole's every word was light as a feather, as if that was the only way he would not shatter his overburdened heart. He smiled bitterly and said, Actually you don't have to be like this. Anyway, it's not the first time I heard it, what?" Gu Meng Meng looked up at Cole. He was clearly someone she hated to the extreme, but when she met his eyes, Gu Meng Meng's heart skipped a beat. She did not know if it was because she had heard his story and knew that he had no choice but to do what he did to Leah back then, so the basis of her hatred had loosened. She did not even find Cole as hateful as before. Cole could clearly see the gentleness in Gu Meng Meng's gaze when she lifted her head. Hence, he tried his best to smile, as if he wanted to hide all his dark side behind this smile, and present the little bit of beauty and sunshine he had left to her. Even though his throat was boiling with blood, Cole still tried his best to maintain his elegance. He said calmly, "Previously in Sauter, when you and Elvis were mating, I was near the stone castle, and heard everything. That was the first time, so I lost control and seriously injured your little tiger." He only asked fiercely, "Why didn't you fight back? Aren't you good at fighting? Don't tell me you don't hit women. I saw that you didn't hold back when you hit Maya and Miranda." Cole shook his head. "It's not that I don't hit women. I just don't hit you." "But Cole, you are different from Oakley, you are not innocent." Cole chuckled. "If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it. Sorry, there are too many things that made you hate me, so I didn't think about it. But Goo, you care about so many people, why did I only kill the insignificant Oakley? If he wants to torture you, he, Chi-Xian or Sandy are all good choices, isn't it?" Cole did not promise that he would not lay his hands on the people Gu Mengmeng cared about in the future, because he had to stick to his bottom line of not lying to her. If the people around her betrayed her again in the future, no matter if it was Elvis, Leah or Sandy or the 4 little ones, if anyone dared to hurt her, he would use any means necessary to get rid of them. With one hand on the wall and the other on his chest, Cole looked at Gu Mingming's resolute back view. Gu, we did not do anything wrong. We were just protecting the people we care about. If you don't look out for yourself, heaven and earth will destroy you. In this cruel world, if you're not the hunter, you're the prey. It's just survival of the fittest. Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. Besides, where are the people who wanted me to torture Cole to death? Why are there so many people asking me to show mercy now? Chapter 1553. About 3 weeks passed in the blink of an eye. Gu Mengmeng was unwilling to face Cole, so she hid in the cave and rarely went out. Leah was the one who prepared the food and brought it in, so she was unwilling to step out of the door. 3 weeks later, Leah confirmed that Gu Mengmeng was pregnant. Usually, foxes would be pregnant for about 50 days, and 3 weeks meant half of the gestation period was over. But Gu Mingming's tummy was ridiculously flat. Leah frowned and stared at Gu Mengmeng for a long time, before looking up blankly and saying slowly, "Maybe, it's a daughter." Gu Mengmeng was also stunned for a moment. The chances of getting pregnant with a female in the beast world was very low, so Gu Mengmeng and Leah had always thought that this child would be a son, and had thought of 4 to 5 names. Suddenly realizing that it was a daughter, the whole family was dumbfounded. Really? Gu Mengmeng held Lee's hand carefully to confirm. Leah transformed into his beast form again and laid between Gu Mingming's legs to sniff carefully, before transforming into a human and nodding, "I'm sure that I'm pregnant. Counting the days, if it's a son, the tummy would have been big long ago. Ah!" Gu Mengmeng screamed in joy, hugging Leah excitedly, "Leah, we have a daughter, we have a daughter." Leah was also dizzy from joy, his entire body was numb, and the phrase, "we have a daughter," kept repeating endlessly in his mind. After a long time, he finally laughed out, hugging Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms, crying tears of joy, "I finally have a family related by blood, finally." Gu Mengmeng, thank you. Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's face and kissed him, saying, "Silly, other than this child, you still have me and Elvis, we are all your family." "Yeah." Leah nodded heavily, hugging Gu Mengmeng back tightly in his arms. Gu Mingming's pregnancy had washed away all other matters, including the conflict with Cole previously. Now that she was pregnant, Gu Mengmeng could not stay in the cave all day, she needed to move around as much as possible. It was impossible to leave the cave, but luckily, because Snake's original body was too big, this cave had an area of at least 300 square meters. It was barely enough for digesting food and taking a stroll. Gu Mengmeng felt a little uneasy after not leaving the room for 3 weeks. For some unknown reason, Gu Mengmeng felt that she could not face Cole. In the past, she hated him because he had schemed against Leah. But later on, she realized, he was just protecting himself. Later on, she hated him because he kidnapped Qi Xian and killed Oakley. But later on, she found out that he kidnapped Qi Xian so that he would have a reason to see her more often. Even though he killed Oakley, it was also to protect her. Didn't she kill Nina to protect Sandy? She had done the same thing, so what right did she have to criticize Cole? The last time Cole fought with Elvis, it seemed like Cole's injuries were also more serious. In the end, he went out and punched Elvis until he vomited blood. Now that she thought about it, why did it seem like she was in the wrong? She hesitated and could not take a step forward. She stared at that one step but could not take it. A shadow fell from the top of her head. Gu Mengmeng instinctively looked up and met Cole's eyes. Chapter 1554. There's no need, Leah will help me. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head, avoiding Cole's gaze. Cole chuckled and resisted the urge to lift her chin to look at him. You are pregnant and a female. It's better to have a witch doctor by your side. It's so cold outside. Won't your heart ache if he goes? Let me go. If you don't see me, will you feel better? Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and kept quiet. Would she feel better if she didn't see Cole? Probably. After all, she felt extremely pressured just by seeing him for no reason. Moreover, if she really asked Leah to pluck some fruits for her in the snow, her heart would definitely ache. She would rather not eat it than let Leah take such a risk. Cole raised his hand, wanting to touch Gu Mengmeng's head. Seeing her instinctively step back and shrink her neck to avoid him, his hand froze in midair. After hesitating for a moment, he slowly lowered it. I'm leaving. Take care. With that, Cole took 2 steps back and turned to walk towards the entrance of the cave. A gust of cold wind blew over. Gu Mengmeng shivered and nestled into Elvis's arms. Leah started a fire and boiled some water for Gu Mengmeng to maintain the moisture in the cave and prevent her from having a nosebleed again. Without Cole in the cave, Gu Mengmeng felt much more comfortable and at ease. It was as if she had returned to the days in St. Nazaire. Every day, Elvis and Leah would take care of her as if she was a queen. Even though she was not even a month pregnant, the 2 of them would take turns to lie on her tummy and listen to her every day. Sometimes, her small intestines would move and make a gurgling sound. These 2 fools would insist that it was the baby moving and were as excited as 2 silly dogs. Such days were leisurely. In the blink of an eye, another half a month had passed. Gu Mengmeng's tummy grew bigger day by day. Now, it was as big as her chest. She stood up like a beta. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her tummy and looked at Leah from time to time. She asked, It's only been slightly more than a month. My tummy is growing a little too fast. Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's little tummy and smiled. You've been eating more and moving less recently. It's probably not all because of your daughter. Maybe it's because you're growing fat on your waist. Leah. Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth and glared at Leah fiercely. The hairs on Lee's back stood up as he instantly recalled the first year Gu Mengmeng came. Elvis had said that Gu Mengmeng seemed to have put on some weight and ended up being chased by Gu Mengmeng with a bone stick as big as a sweet potato. Leah was not afraid of being smashed, mainly because Gu Mengmeng's current body was not suitable for chasing and battling. Hence, he immediately admitted defeat and took the initiative to transform into a beast and send it to Gu Mengmeng's hand. He even pretended to smile subconsciously and said, All right Mengmeng, don't be angry. In the beast world, saying a female is a little fat is a compliment, really. I know my mistake, I really know my mistake, my Mengmeng is not fat at all, not fat. His face was as red as an apple in anger as Gu Mengmeng was holding on to his ear. Leah kept begging for mercy but did not dare to struggle, fearing that he would hurt Gu Mengmeng. Just as they were fooling around, a wave of coldness swept over. Gu Mengmeng instinctively looked towards the entrance of the cave and saw Cole, who had just returned covered in frost. Chapter 1555. Leah had just taken the beast skin bag from Cole's hands when Cole fell stiffly to one side, landing on the ground with a loud thud. He was obviously frozen stiff. Gu Mingming's heart was tugged at by Cole's fall. She did not know if it was because she knew about his past, but Gu Mingming's hostility towards Cole had lessened by a lot. Especially when he went out this time to not be an eyesore to make her feel better, and even braved the wind and snow to pluck fruits for her. No matter how cold-hearted she was, Gu Mengmeng still felt a little guilty. Gu Mengmeng wanted to help Cole up, but was stopped by Elvis and Leah. The cold air on his body is too strong, it will be troublesome to pass it to you. Leah handed the Schwelling fruits to Elvis, then walked up to carry Cole and placed him at a spot slightly further away from the fire. People with frostbite should not immediately go to the fire, it would make their injuries worse. Elvis took out a beast skin cushion and placed it by the fire, letting Gu Mengmeng sit there comfortably. Leah took care of Cole, while Elvis went to wash the Schwelling fruits for Gu Mengmeng to eat. Gu Mengmeng held a small bowl, staring at the bowl full of Schwelling fruits in a daze, but did not eat a single one. Elvis used his chest to support Gu Mengmeng's waist, wrapping an arm around her shoulder and gently squeezing her little hand, asking, "Why aren't you eating? Don't you love eating this fruit the most? I remember when you were pregnant with Heda and the rest, you could eat 3 big bowls of this at once." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "There are many Schwelling fruits on the Moda Mountains, Gregory would pluck them for me to eat every day. But he said I could only eat 10 at most at once, or else it would be too cold and my stomach would feel uncomfortable." Elvis was taken aback for a moment, then took the bowl from Gu Mengmeng's hands. He forced a smile and said calmly, "It is not easy to be principled towards your own female. Gregory is a good man. When he comes back, you can take him in. Leah and I have no objections." Leah tilted his head and looked at Elvis, saying, "Who says I have no objections? I have objections. If you want to be promoted, you have to defeat me first." Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah, who was trying to protect his food, and could not help but laugh. Gregory, a 3rd-level beast, wanted to fight Leah, a 5th level. Elvis looked at Leah plainly and said, "Xiaomeng feels guilty towards him regarding the love of the sky. Moreover, he has sacrificed so much for Xiaomeng, we have no right to reject him." Leah snorted nonchalantly and said, "It was all thanks to him that Mengmeng could obtain the love of the sky, but who begged him to do so? Since it was voluntary, there was no need to say that anyone owed him anything. Furthermore, there were many ways to thank him, but he could not use Mengmeng as a reward. If this precedent is set, in the future, everyone will come to sacrifice their lives for Mengmeng. Are we going to accept all of them?" When Leah said this, he glanced at Cole. His meaning was obvious. With Cole's methods, if Gu Mengmeng were to set a precedent for Gregory, he would be able to do even more cruel things to force Gu Mengmeng to accept him. Elvis frowned and remained silent for a moment. They are different. Back then, Gregory was tricked by you. Chapter 1556. Elvis let out a sigh. As the first partner, he had to be fair and magnanimous. But as a male, how could he be willing to have another person fighting for her attention at home? Especially that Gregory, he was exceptionally handsome and different from most of the beasts in the beast world. He had the unique aura of a bird, and although he did not dare to say that he could outshine Leah, he was at least on par with him. He was neither servile nor overbearing in front of Gu Mengmeng and would not give in uncontrollably just because of her pleas. He had a measuring stick in his heart and would only do things that were truly good for her. Most importantly, he was only 10 years old and was at the prime of his youth, while Elvis and Leah were no longer as young and energetic as before. Coupled with the friendship of the love of the sky, if he really became Gu Mingming's partner, Elvis gave a bitter smile. Would Xiao Meng still value him? Unfortunately, he was not Leah and could not place his emotions before Gu Mingming's interests. As long as Xiao Meng liked him, not only could he not reject him, he had to think of ways to help her settle Leah so that she could fulfill her wish. It was just that Wales had yet to be truly revived and there was still some time before Gregory returned. Saying all these in advance was just to let Leah and himself be mentally prepared and not to argue too early. And Elvis was very clear that although Leah was speaking so decisively now, if Gu Mengmeng really liked Gregory, Leah would bear with it no matter how unwilling he was and would not really stop her. After all, compared to her smiling face, there was nothing else in this world that was more important. Including themselves. Forget it, let's wait until Gregory successfully returns. Elvis said calmly. Leah harumphed and did not reply. He just fiddled with some medicine and poured it down Cole's throat with hot water. Then, he dusted his hands and said, "All right, this fellow is just suffering from frostbite. He won't die, don't worry." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "Make more food later. When he wakes up, let's eat together." Leah glanced at Cole and his lips curled up slightly as he smiled and nodded. Ever since Gu Mengmeng got pregnant, she had become especially drowsy all day long. Now, she felt sleepy again after just a few steps. She leaned into Elvis's arms and yawned, saying that she wanted to sleep for a while. Elvis remembered that Gu Mengmeng was also like this when she was pregnant with Heda and the rest. She got tired easily, so he carried Gu Mengmeng back to the room and let her lie down comfortably to have a good sleep, while he stayed by her side as a warm blanket to keep her warm. Leah stayed outside, adjusting the fire from time to time, controlling the heat in preparation for cooking. He waited until Gu Mengmeng's even breathing could be heard from the house. After confirming that Gu Mengmeng had fallen asleep, he gave Cole a kick. "All right, stop pretending. Mengmeng is asleep." Cole slowly opened his eyes and smiled. He propped himself up and said, "I'm not pretending. I just woke up." Leah did not question him and only smiled faintly. "Can you be more creative? You're completely plagiarizing the way I begged for mercy in the past. Aren't you afraid that Mengmeng will notice?" Cole's body was weak. No matter how much of a beast king he was, not eating or drinking in the snow for half a month was enough to kill him. His voice was hoarse and a little weak. He said, "Since you know there's a shortcut, why take a detour? Follow the track so that you won't fall into the swamp, right?" Chapter 1557. Cole did not think that Leah was being sarcastic and just smiled. "Just like what you said, Gu is not an inexperienced little female. It's impossible to lie to her, especially when she has such a deep enmity towards me. How can I not use everything I have in order to sway her?" Leah stopped stirring and turned to look at Cole. He asked in a daze, "Back then, you used all your schemes to survive. Now, you're putting in so much effort to plot something that will cost you your life. I really don't understand you. Are you seeking life or death?" Cole raised his head and leaned against the wall. His gaze was distant as if he was looking at his past self through the fire. He said calmly, "I was unwilling to accept it back then. I couldn't understand the 3 words based on what, and was determined to trample everyone under my feet. All these years, I've done it. I'm the leader of Sauter, the supreme light in the beast world, the king behind the stray beasts, the most obscure place in the beast world. I've done my best to be kind in front of others and evil behind others. Maybe you don't believe me, but I've long been sick of this kind of life. Everything is in my control and no one can escape from my control. If I want someone to live, they will die. If I want someone to live a life worse than death, it's not impossible. Cole looked at Leah and smiled calmly. You're hailed as the wisest person in the beast world. But all these years, has there ever been a day where you could get rid of me? I'm hated by people like Peter and Oakley. But I don't care about their hatred. I even intentionally allowed them to grow, allowing them to sharpen their claws and teeth and wait for an opportunity to attack me. Unfortunately, they're too stupid and can't even withstand a single blow. I'm also bored out of my mind. There are also people who love me dearly, like Maya and Jillian. They try their best to please me and to please me. But I don't have the slightest interest in them. Other than using them, they have no value in my eyes. Cole's gaze was as still as stagnant water, so calm that it sent chills down one's spine. And you, my brother who hates and loves me. You hate me for scheming against you, hate me for torturing you, but you can't let go of the last bit of kinship between us. After all, I am your only remaining brother in this world. So when you and Elvis fought back in Solder that year, you could not bring yourself to kill me even though you had already subdued me. You let me go because Gu wanted to protect Qixien. I don't believe that you don't know what it means to let a tiger return to the mountain, and there will be no end of trouble in the future. After all, my life wasn't tied to Qixuan's back then. Killing me before looking for Qixien was the most rational decision. Chapter 1558. At that time, I didn't know what liking was. I only knew that this female was very interesting and I wanted her. As Cole said, he threw another branch into the fire and said, that night, after I returned to my room, my mind kept replaying the scene of her and Elvis joking around. I even imagined that the one hugging her was not Elvis, but me. So the next morning, I packed up and went to the little stone house to look for her. Yeah, you even stopped me. A mere third-level orc actually dared to be so impudent in front of a fifth-level me. You really overestimated yourself. Leo laughed dryly. So you brought me away and beat me until I revealed my original form before sending me back. Cole raised his brows. He didn't deny it. Females should flock to the strong. As a fifth level, I had a noble status and should be the one she liked. Unfortunately, she didn't care about me at all. So, towards her, other than curiosity, I also had a desire to conquer. Cole continued. After you left Solder, I kept following you. But you were too weak then and couldn't even notice me. Along the way, I saw how gentle she was to you and Elvis. There were countless times when I wanted to appear and snatch her away. Just like how I did with Jillian, I could just lock her up and tame her to be my pet. But once she smiled, I couldn't move. If I could be loved by her, who would want to be hated? At that time, I was angry, resentful, and full of hatred. I blamed her for appearing too late. I had mated with another female and lost the right to pursue her openly. But after so many twists and turns, I couldn't bear to taint her with my hatred. So I could only transfer it to you. Cole looked straight at Leah. His gaze was calm and without a hint of guilt. If you hadn't made that request to me back then, I wouldn't have lost the chance to pursue Gu. Why did you let me settle Jillian for you, while you could pursue Gu? Did you think being rejected by Gu back then was very miserable? But did you know that I was even envious of you being rejected? Because I didn't even have the right to be rejected. Leo was not angry. Instead, he smiled calmly and said, bloodlines are really magical things. While I was envious of Elvis being reprimanded by Meng Meng, twisted by his ears and smashed with potatoes, you were actually envious of my envy. Cole replied with a smile, acknowledging Lee's words. After a moment of silence, he continued, after that, I plotted for Gu to come to Solder to seek help from me, and I meticulously acted as her hero. It wasn't that I couldn't see her change from trusting me at the very beginning to deliberately playing around with me. It wasn't that I couldn't see this change, but I didn't want to expose it. If she wanted, I would rather be blindly deceived by her for the rest of my life. Chapter 1561. What do you mean? Elvis asked. Cole took a deep breath and said, You still don't understand. The female in Augu's stomach is absorbing the energy of the tear of the beast deity and love of the sky. If this continues, Augu's stomach will explode in less than 3 months and 2 lives will be lost. Elvis took a step back and his stomach exploded. 1 dead and 2 lives. These simple words exploded in Elvis's mind like a sudden clap of thunder. He turned to look at Leah with much difficulty and said with clenched teeth, This child cannot be left alive. Everything that could endanger Gu Mengmeng must be eradicated, no matter if this child was Li's or his. When Gu Mengmeng gave birth to Kanwu, he would not hesitate to kill Kanwu to protect Gu Mengmeng if Gu Mengmeng did not threaten to kill herself. Now that this child was Li's, he would do the same. In this world, no one or thing was more important than Gu Mengmeng, including themselves. Cole said coldly, Gu will not agree to it. You don't have to worry. Elvis looked at Leah with a black face and said, I will be the bad guy. No matter how angry Xiao Meng is after this, I will bear the responsibility alone. You, take good care of her. Leah pulled Elvis back and said, Calm down first. You can't bear to. Elvis asked back with a sinister gaze. Leah shook his head and said, In my eyes, no one can be compared to Gu Mengmeng. If she is threatened, I will personally kill this child. But if there is a way to not hurt Gu Mengmeng, why should we let her cry? Elvis was stunned and looked at Leah in confusion. Leah turned to look at Cole and said, What do you mean by opening the doors of time and space in advance? Cole said, When the doors of time and space open, the 7 treasures will reunite. This means that the tear of the beast deity and love of the sky will be removed from her body. This way, the child in her stomach will not be able to absorb the energy of the 7 treasures and the problem will be solved. Li's gaze shifted down and said, But the spirit of the rocky cliffs has not appeared yet. Cole chuckled and said, The spirit of the rocky cliffs has not appeared because I am not in enough pain. Perhaps, when Augu's eyes were filled with hatred and she personally pierced through my left chest and touched that heart, the spirit of the rocky cliffs would appear. Leah frowned and contemplated for a long time. He shook his head and said, You have already explained everything to her in the past. Based on her personality, she is filled with guilt towards you and can't bear to do anything to you at all. Cole took 2 steps back and revealed a sly and despicable smile. Making her hate me is my forte. What do you want? Leah was confused. Cole's bloodshot eyes widened as he glared at Leah. I want you to die. All the energy in Li's body seemed to have been sucked dry in an instant. He fell to the ground with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices. The wrath of the Beast King. Elvis glared furiously at Cole. Cole sneered and said, Why? Lord Wolf King wants to kill me. Ha, then you have to think carefully. If I die now, the spirit of the rocky cliffs will not be able to appear, and the one in Augu's stomach will take her life. Just based on fighting skills, I am indeed weaker than you. But all is fair in war. You have no way to retaliate. With that, Cole turned ruthless and directly reached for Elvis's chest. He crushed his heart without hesitation. Gu Mengmeng, who had just fallen asleep, was awakened by the intense pain from the 2 mating marks. She lay on the bed like a fish on water, gasping for air. Her eyes were wide open and she suppressed her tears as she shouted, Elvis, Leah. Respond to me, respond to me. Aside from the topic, hold back your tears, you are not allowed to cry. Susu did not want to torture Elvis and Leah, nor did she want to torture Gu Mang Mang. Susu wanted to torture Cole. As long as the doors of time and space opened, Gu Mang Mang would have a chance to make a wish. By then, Elvis and Leah would be revived. So as long as it is not a sad ending, you are not allowed to cry. Also, hold down those little claws that want to mail a kitchen knife. Other than the monthly tickets, Susu refuses to accept anything else. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.